أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. We are in the month of Rajab, the month of spirituality, and preparing ourselves for the month of Ramadan. Before I get into discussing what I want to discuss today, just a brief reminder to myself and to all those listening. This is a month of spirituality where Allah has allowed us to prepare ourselves spiritually so that we can prepare ourselves for the month of Ramadan. I thought I just share this humble advice from, this is just a humble advice from myself that if we can focus on this portion of Dua Abu Hamza Somali in this 2 months of Rajab and Sha'ban, hopefully then we will be able to prepare ourselves to be able to enter into being guests of Allah in the month of Ramadan. Okay? And the reason I'm sharing this is because Imam is mentioning 10 reasons why we cannot connect ourselves with Allah, why we can't become intimate with Allah. Now, my purpose is not to mention all these 10 things, rather to mention 1 or 2 statements and then leave it on you and focus on these 10 reasons. And if we work on these 10 reasons and try and remove them one by one, hopefully we can be able to reach and get intimate with Allah by the month of Ramadan, inshaAllah. So notice a portion of Dua Abu Hamza, it's a beautiful portion, but it's also a portion which really makes you break down that, oh Allah, where am I with you? Okay? So notice Imam mentions, Allahumma inni kullama qultu qad tahayyatu wa ta'abba'tu. Okay, oh Allah, whenever I say I'm ready to stand before you, I'm ready to connect with you. Okay? وَقُمْتُ لِلصَّلَاةِ بَيْنَ يَدَيْكَ وَنَاجَيْتُكَ. Whenever I say that I'm ready now to pray in a way that I can connect with you and I can do munajat with you, become very intimate with you. أَلْقَيْتَ عَلَيَّ نُعَاسًا إِذَا أَنَا صَلَّيْتُ. Okay, something happens to me and I start becoming lazy when I start praying. So it's like as if I've told myself, now inshallah from now I'll start praying and connecting to Allah. But suddenly something happens and I start becoming lazy. Okay? Now this is one of the hard statements which Imam mentions. وَسَلَبْتَنِي مُنَاجَاتِكَ إِذَا أَنَا نَاجَيْتُ. Okay? Oh Allah, you have removed that sense of intimacy within me. It's gone away. I can't connect with you anymore. Okay? Mali, Imam is talking to himself, is thinking over himself, and this is exactly what the month of Rajab, Sha'ban and Ramadan should do to ourselves. We should introspect within ourselves, and that's why I notice Mali, Imam doesn't want to blame others. He wants to come and introspect himself, that what has happened to me. Okay, Mali kullama qultu qad saluhat sarirati wa qaruba min majalis at-tawwabin majlisi. Oh Allah, what is happening to me? Okay, what has happened to me? Whenever I say that I'm ready now, okay, I'm ready, my inner self has prepared itself. وَقَرُبَ مِن مَجَالِسِ التَّوَّابِينَ مَجْلِسِ. I become close to those people who are often repenting and often coming to you. Then suddenly, again, something happens. أَرَضَتْ لِي بَلِيَّةٌ. Something happens and I slip down again. And my feet fall over again. وَحَالَتْ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ خِدْمَتِكَ Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Okay, and that becomes a barrier between me and you. Okay, whenever I say I'm ready to get to connect with you and suddenly something comes up and blocks me from connecting with you. Now from here then, Imam gives 10 reasons as to why it is possible that a person cannot connect with Allah. Okay? And these are the 10 reasons we have to focus upon in these 2 months and say, God, can we remove it, Ya Allah? These 10 reasons, if it can come out from us, then we can get ready and start talking to you and start getting closer to you. Okay, so for example, one reason Imam mentions, Sayyidi, one of the harshest statements, one of the harshest, لَعَلَّكَ عَنْ بَابِكَ طَرَدْتَنِي. Oh Allah, you've chucked me, if I can put it in my words. Oh Allah, you've chucked me out from your kingdom, from your closeness. You don't want to accept me as a close friend anymore. Okay, these are the words Imam is mentioning. وَأَنْ خِدْمَتِكَ نَحَيْتَنِي. You have taken me away from yourself. Now, this is where we need to go and find out what happens that Allah removes the people, Allah removes and chucks out people from His own special mercy. Yeah. So a beautiful examples to study here would be Shaitan, for example. Why was he chucked out? Okay. One of the biggest reason which comes out is Aba wastakbar. Okay. He was defiant and he did istikbar. So these are the reasons a person should go into check in within ourselves, that am I like that or not? Or for example, Imam mentions that أو لعلك رأيتني مستخفا بحقك فأقصيتني. Oh Allah, you found me somebody who's taking your duties lightly, and thus you didn't allow me into you sent me away. Okay, Aqsa is somewhere far. You sent me away altogether. You didn't allow entrance to me. So one of the other reasons Imam mentions is taking the duties of Allah lightly. Okay, so Imam goes on mentioning 10 reasons as to why a person cannot connect with Allah. So this is just, I thought we remind ourselves so that we can be able to hopefully work on these reasons and then hopefully connect with Allah in these 2-3 months, and that makes up our whole spiritual life. Yeah. Coming back to our discussion, so we have finished our discussions in regards to Arba'een and Ziyarah and related issues, which we have been discussing for a few discussions. We have finished our discussions on that. Now we come back to our original topic. I don't know if you remember where we started this whole series, which we called Empowerment versus Over-Directing or Spoon Feeding. It all started with a question which was directed towards us as to why we have adopted this methodology. So I'll not get into all that again. And then one of the issues which I discussed under this topic was the whole issue of, are we empowering our masses and communities, or are we spoon feeding them? Okay? And then we decided that under this broad title of empowerment versus spoon feeding, we will be discussing practical examples. Those practical examples will be from books or from lectures out there, without mentioning names of the speakers. The purpose is not the names, the purpose is the concepts. Yeah. So we'll be discussing these practical examples and then discuss those topics within those examples. Yeah. So we have already discussed few topics under this broad topic of empowerment versus spoon feeding. Today, inshallah, we continue with another topic which we intend hopefully probably 2-3 sessions, inshallah. Okay, so I was listening to this scholar. Now, I don't know, should I say fortunately and unfortunately, one of the community platforms also somehow, so this is a long lecture of this scholar, and then the community platforms, one of them which is very known, renowned community platforms, clipped this lecture of this speaker and then it put it on its own platform. And this is where I heard this talk. It was there for a while on this platform, and then it was eventually removed. You will notice why even the feeling of removing this lecture altogether. But I thought it'll be a good example for us to be able to discuss it. Okay? So, this speaker and this scholar was discussing basically the whole issue about the discussion which goes around today, and that will be our subsequent discussions when we come and discuss hadith. Okay, so our discussion, we don't want to get into this hadith discussion, but the discussion this scholar had was a 17-minute clip basically, where he was discussing that the hadith corpus has been preserved. Okay, so there's this discussion going on that some have said that the hadith corpus of the Shias has been distorted and has been played around with the ghalis. Yeah, this is something which we can discuss it as we go further. So he's discussing that issue. So notice he says that there are some who are saying that you cannot rely upon our hadith literature, particularly when it comes to the fada'il of Ali Muhammad alayhi salam. When you ask them why, they will say the ghulat infiltrated the madrasa of Ali Muhammad and infiltrated the books and distorted the books. Okay? So in the process now, he's trying to show that the imams and the companions took efforts and put in struggle to be able to sort these problems. Okay? Now, that's not our discussion. The point which really hurt me, if I can put it very frankly, is this, that he throws basically, and this is where I come and say that we are basically thinking that either the masses are not understanding, or are we over directing them to some kind of understanding and spoon feeding them. Okay, so he throws the whole blame on Sunnis. Okay, and this is the big issue which we want to discuss today. So notice he says, this is a problem when we over interact with the Sunnis. So this whole issue of the ghalis distorting the books of Shias is now throwing it on, and the understanding which comes in within the youths of today. Okay, so he's trying to say that this thought which comes in the youths of today is coming because they're interacting with the Sunnis. So if they leave interacting with the Sunnis, these issues will get sorted. I don't know, okay? So he says same mentality. The Prophet is leaving you. He has not left you behind a Khalifa. He has not left you behind a Quran that has been compiled and then he's dying. He's leaving the Muslim Ummah to progress. So he's trying to show that the Prophet left, according to the Sunni understanding, that the Prophet left. He didn't leave a Khalifa behind. He didn't leave even the Quran, which was a compiled Quran. Now this is a whole discussion by itself. It's not a Sunni issue altogether. It's also some Shia scholars also believe in this opinion. Okay? But this is where when we start blaming others, where we want to start finding scapegoats, and then we start using some people outside our madhab. Yeah? Now, until here, okay, it was still okay, but what hit me was here now. Okay? See, there is a reason when you drink from a pond that is najis and always sit around najasa, that najasa will contaminate your blind mind. So notice, he's calling Sunnis najis, okay? And then he's saying that if you sit with them, that their najasa will, God forbid, come to you also, and it'll contaminate your mind. Okay, now, one of the strange things which I find it very hard to accept even in this statement is none of the Shia scholars, okay? So I'll just quote from this book. This is a book, Takfir Mukhalif, okay? The name is Takfir Mukhalif. It's written by Muhammad Ansari. It's talking about the whole issue of takfir and excommunicating those who are not Shias, okay? So on the first page only, notice the discussion within the Shias, and this is also within the Sunnis also, but within the Shias, the scholars are divided into three groups, okay? So I'm quoting this from page number 9. He says اغلب آنها قائل به اسلام مخالفین است. Okay, a number of scholars who believe that the Sunni brothers are Muslims. Okay, now Muslims in what sense theologically and all whatnot, that's a discussion by itself. There's some who believe that they are theologically kafir. Now these are all require discussion by itself. وفقط صاحب حدائق بكفر فقهی مخالف حکم داده. Only one scholar within the Shia school of thought, that is Sahib Hadaiq al-Nadhira, okay? He is the only scholar who has given a ruling of najasa for the Sunnis. Do you get me? Because he believes the Sunnis are fiqhi-wise also najis. Jurisprudentially they are najis, and that is why they are also, so if you touch them also you become najis. Notice, out of all the Shia scholarship, there's only one scholar who believes in this theory and this opinion. But notice the way we are now using it. This scholar is now using it. He's trying to paint the whole Ahlul Sunnah as najis now. From where does he get this opinion? Allah knows better. But this is the direction we are moving into. When we want to spoon feed and over direct a people and try and blame a people for our own issues, this is where we reach. Okay? So he comes and says that when you drink from a pond that is najis and you sit around najasa, that najasa will contaminate you. So he says, what's the solution? He says, tabarra is the only solution. Tabarra is that you keep yourself in a pure environment. Okay? So now, even the whole issue of tabarra and tawalla, okay, the right pronunciation is tawalli and tabarri, yeah? But we're using the same, which has become common, tawalla and tabarra, yeah? This by itself requires discussion, okay? So if you go refer to books of, for example, Farhang Shia, okay, it's an encyclopedia of theological concepts in within Shiism, on page number 359, for example. Or Shaykh Mutahari, for example, in 3-4 places I found him discussing this, that Furu'ud-Din, okay, in our madrasa we are taught it's 10, okay? But this is apparently a recent phenomenon. When exactly, it's a research by itself, okay? But notice, Shaykh Mutahari in his Yad Dashtha, volume 12, he says, Furu'ud-Din ibaratas hashed cheese, okay? 8 things. So earlier scholars used to consider Furu'ud-Din to be 8 matters and not 10. Okay, now when you go earlier even further, you will see scholars even differ in the Furu'ud-Din also, okay? And that's why some scholars now believe that this 10 is just an arbitrary number. We to teach people in the madrasa, but it's not the real number. Furu'ud-Din is more than what the 10 is being mentioned, okay? Within this eight, there's no tawalli and tabarri. So the question now comes in, when did this become part of Furu'ud-Din? This is a research by itself. Now, I'm not saying this, okay, so before I get into this, one other thing we have to keep in mind that this division of Usuluddin and Furu'uddin is nothing which Quran or the Imams alayhimus salam taught us, okay? This is something even Shaykh Mutahari makes it clear. He says, در اینجا باید اولا بدانیم که این گونه تقسیم بندی نه در قرآن وارد شده و نه از ناحیه یکی از ائمه معصومین علیهم السلام رسیده. Okay, it's not the Quran which has taught us how to divide Usuluddin and Furu'uddin, nor the Imams have taught us. This is what has happened is scholars have sat down, they have sat down and said, okay, they said, okay, this separates us from the other non-Muslims. So this will become Usuluddin, okay? This separates us from the non-Shias, it will become Usulul Madhab, for example, okay? And then Furu'uddin, for example, those issues which they feel that every Muslim accepts it, they become part of the furu, for example, that if you don't believe in them, then you are refusing one of the daruriyat and the necessity of deen, and then the following subsequent rulings which come together. Okay, so this by itself requires a discussion, that when did they come up. So for example, even if you come to Usuluddin, one of the Usuluddin which Shias discuss is Adl. Okay, now even Ayatul Sistani discusses this, that Adl came in the 3rd century. Okay, it didn't come early, and the reason for that is because the discussions between the Asha'ira and the Mu'tazila and the Imamiyya, this resulted into scholars starting to feel that Adl should be a part of fundamentals of religion. Otherwise, it wasn't before that. Now, that doesn't mean that it wasn't part of our literature. It's there in the Quran, it's there in the Hadith, it's there. But scholars made it part of the essentials. Meaning, if you now don't believe in these essentials, you come out of, do you get me? You come out of either Islam or either Shiism. So similarly also in Furu'uddin, Tawalli and Tabarri, or Tawalla and Tabarra, when did it come into this form of Furu'uddin? Otherwise, it's always been there in the texts, okay? The Quran has mentioned Tawalla, and also the riwayats have mentioned Tawalla and Tabarra, okay? But the issue is when you start making it part of your furu, now you're making it part of your essentials. And this is what I'm saying, there needs to be a research on this topic altogether, okay? Let's come back to the topic which we want to discuss today. We want to discuss the relationship. So out of, you notice the example which I gave of this scholar, he's calling the Sunnis Najis and Najasa and all whatnot. So I felt it's necessary for us to discuss this whole issue of relationship between Shias and Sunnis. Okay, what I'll be doing is just sharing my thoughts. I've already discussed this a bit even in the earlier series. If you refer to the Unity and Diversity series, you will notice there also I've discussed these issues a lot also. But I want to discuss it from a different angle a bit, and thus sharing my own thoughts. Okay, so the first discussion when it comes to the whole discussion of Shia and Sunni relationship is this: how many types of relationships can we think of within Shias and Sunnis? Okay, so what type of relationships can we think of between Shias and Sunnis? I could come up with 6. Probably you can come up with more, or you even might reject some of these classification also. So the first type of relationship with the Sunnis is what I call theological, jurisprudential, and historical rivalry or conflict. Okay? Notice I'm using 3 words. Theologically, there have been lots of conflicts and rivalry between Shias and Sunnis. Okay? And I'll come and mention why I'm mentioning all this as we go further. Jurisprudentially also, we have seen fatwas from both sides, okay? Some doing takfir, as we saw also, doing takfir of each other, and some not doing takfir of each other. But fatwas are there from both sides also. And historical conflicts are very much magnified, and it's very much known also. Okay? So this kind of conflict is something which is very much magnified, something which I'll just come and pick up on it as we go further again. Okay? This is first kind of and first type of relationship you can think between Shias and Sunnis. Now, as we go further, please keep this division in mind, so that as we go further, this all now will start making sense as we go further, and the theory which I'm trying to propose. Yeah, the second type of relationship you can think of is a relationship of peaceful coexistence, or some would call civic nationalism. Okay, so basically what happens here is people now keep sectarianism aside, and rather that becomes a secondary issue. The primary issue which the people share is a citizenship. This is what they share within each other, okay? So they have a shared citizenship, or they have a local identity which keeps them together, and thus the sects and their madhab goes secondary. Okay, so this happens in very many, even in some parts of the Muslim world where discussing these sectarian issues is an issue. Okay, or in the part of the Western world where living together as a citizen is important. Okay, so now you will see that this Sunni and the Shia keep their citizenship in front and then keep their sects behind. Not that they abandon their faith, no. They keep their citizenship as a main criteria of cooperating and existing with each other. Okay, I hope I'm making sense. Okay, this is second type of relationship. A third type of relationship is what we would call theological respect and theological dialogue. Okay, so there are some scholars within the Shias and the Sunnis who have come to a conclusion that there's a need for unity, to establish unity between Shias and Sunnis. Does it mean we abandon our differences? No, the theological differences are going to remain, and till the end of times they will remain. Yeah. So what these scholars now come and say that, okay, let's keep our theological differences aside, or even if we are discussing, we will discuss it very respectfully in a very civil manner. Okay, but more importantly, we are going to focus on commonalities. Okay, and that is what they call the whole issue of taqreeb, yeah? The whole issue of unity between Muslims. So you find the scholars, the likes of scholars like Ayatollah Burujardi within Shias, or for the likes of Sheikh Shaltut of Al-Azhar from the Sunnis, these two had communication with each other, which resulted into Sheikh Shaltut considering the Ja'fari madhab as one of the legal schools of thought within Islam. Yeah, or for example, we had the Amman declaration, Amman in Jordan. Yeah, so in 2004 or 5, there were ulama from 50 different countries. So they have a whole page. You can go check it out, and the names are there and all, the declarations and all whatnot. But the main ones from whom statements came out was from the Sheikh of Al-Azhar, okay, from Ayatollah Sistani, and Sheikh Qardawi, Yusuf al-Qardawi, the Egyptian Qatari scholar. They all gave statements in this conference, okay, all calling for unity between Muslims. So they had 3 declarations. One of their declarations was to consider all the madhahib, the 8 madhahib currently there, as legal madhahib and legal schools of thought within Islam. Okay, so including Shias and including the Ibadiyya. Do you get me? Okay, and they included the Ash'aris and the Sufis also within the true Salafi thought as Muslims also. So these come under this theological relationships, okay? So they believe that we have theological issues, but we still will keep these theological differences aside and come and focus on commonalities, okay? This is a third type of relationship. A fourth type of relationship is what we would call, for example, functional and strategic alliance. Okay? Or socio-political alliance, if you want to call it also. So this is something which we are seeing very rampant just now in the West especially, where some scholars within Shias and some scholars within Sunnis also are calling for this kind of alliance now. That let's keep our differences aside in the wake of the genocide which is happening in Palestine. Let's unite our forces for the sake of socio-political issues and create a strong socio-political alliance so that we can fight out, okay, issues like Islamophobia and the related issues, okay? Now, I was listening to Dr. Tariq Suwaidan. He's a Kuwaiti scholar. He is, when I was checking, his Kuwaiti citizenship has been revoked also, apparently because of criticizing the Arab Gulf leaders also. His citizenship was revoked. So he was speaking on a Thinking Muslim channel, he made a statement which really touched me, and something which I come and say that, okay, if you don't want to have the two first, okay, if we don't want to have the first two which we discussed, okay, number 2 and number 3 kind of existence and relationship, then at least have this fourth type of relationship. So look at his statement. His statement is really important. He says that we Sunnis have killed Shias throughout history. Okay, now this is a statement which also, when you get munsif and just Sunni scholars, they make and accept these statements. Otherwise, you see the polemical, sometimes polemical Sunnis scholars, they just want to reject this kind of alliance between Shias and Sunnis. When you ask them why, they will give you reason. Oh, in Syria, I don't know how many Sunnis were killed by Bashar al-Assad. Okay. Now, did Bashar al-Assad kill on sectarian basis, or did he even kill Shias who opposed him? Okay. Those Sunnis who were killed by Shias there also, for example, this has nothing to do with Islam and Shiism and Sunnism. Rather, it has to do with politics. As I go further, that's one of the theories I'm trying to propose. Okay? And this is something which Dr. Tariq Suwaidan is also calling to, that he says, in history, Sunnis have killed Shias. Look at the Umayyad dynasty, how much Alawis did they kill. Look at the Abbasids. These were all Sunnis. These were not Shias, okay? Or if you want to call them, at least they were proto-Sunnis. But they were Sunnis. They were not Shias, okay? They killed so many Shias and Alawis as to in history. And then you come down, you look at the likes of Saddam Hussein, for example. Saddam was not a Shia who killed so many Shias. Okay, a Sunni killing. But we are not going to say that this was a Sunni killing a Shia. Rather, we would say that this was a political figure trying to establish his political leadership, and that's why he's killing anybody who differs with him. Okay, anybody who stands up against these. And you see the same thing happening also in the Gulf countries also today. Okay? And other countries also. We see this happening in the Middle East also. Okay? So, let's not make it a Shia-Sunni issue. Okay? Dr. Suwaidan makes it very clear. The Sunnis and Shias have killed each other. So he says Sunnis have killed Shias throughout history. And Shias also have killed Sunnis throughout history. So he gives example of the Fatimid Khilafah. Okay? It was an Ismaili Khilafah which again had issues with some of the Sunnis. Okay, this is where the whole issue of Salahuddin and all comes in. Now Salahuddin also has been made an idol today. When you come and study Salahuddin also, you will see some of the issues which are being discussed about him also. Okay, and scholars have written articles on where, when and where did Salahuddin become Salahuddin. Before that, criticism of Salahuddin was allowed. Okay? But later then Salahuddin was made a celebrity and an idol. But there's so many problems mentioned about him also. Okay? Now he was a Sunni who is a celebrity and an icon today. Do you get me? Okay? So, Shias and Sunnis have killed each other. That didn't work. He says, we tried removing the Shias, and the Shias tried removing us whenever they had power. And then you can come and study the different empires within the Safavid and the Ottomans and all whatnot. You come and see this rivalry, okay? He said, we tried everything on both sides. Nothing worked. Now, we tried killing, we tried removing each other, nothing worked. So, he's saying now, the solution is to live peacefully with each other. Let's coexist peacefully at least. He's not even calling for unity. He doesn't believe in Shia Sunni unity. He's saying we just should live peacefully. That's all. Khalas. Okay? That's type number 4. Okay? Of relationship. A fifth type of relationship is what I would call social integration or intertwined relationship. Okay, where, so for example, you have intermarriages taking place. You have Shias marrying Sunnis and Sunnis marrying Shia, for example. Or you have shared cultural practices which people from one race, be it Shias or Sunnis, would do it together. Okay, so here again, this is one kind of relationship between Shias and Sunnis. They forget their differences and they will come together. Okay, this is the fifth type of relationship. The sixth type of relationship is of ignorance. Okay, in ignorance, what happens is, this happens in very many countries where you have a majority which is of a one sect. Okay, when you have one sect as a majority, then those people are not going to be concerned about the others, and thus they are okay with remaining ignorant of the others also. Okay, so that's another type of relationship we are looking at. Okay, so these are the six types of relationships I could think of between Shias and Sunnis. Now, coming to my thoughts now, having mentioned this, I want to propose two theories. And these are just my random thoughts which have come to my mind after reading, in my humble reading. And somebody might differ with this understanding, beautiful. But these are things which we need to sit down and think over them. And then slowly work on how can we make our relationship better, rather than calling each other Najis and Kafir and all whatnot. Okay, so now I don't know if today I'll get time, but after proposing the two theories, next session, next lecture, inshallah, I will use this book of Dr. Yasir Qadhi, his recent book, Understanding Salafism. So if anybody has it, the discussion I want to have is on the three waves of Salafism. And okay, and then prove the points which I'm trying to prove. Okay, so the theory I'm proposing, that is something I'll prove through his book. But today, let me just discuss this and then inshallah we finish. So there are two theories I'm proposing. Number one, area number one, or theory number one, which I'm proposing is this: the Muslim of today, and I'll come and explain what I mean by that. The Muslim of today is living a bipolar life. Okay, he's living in a dilemma and a paradoxical life. This is point number one. And point number two, very important, is this: that all the physical violence happening between the Shias and the Sunnis, majority, if not all, I'm proposing, after having read, even when we come to Dr. Yasir Qadhi, we'll see that. Okay, the feeling I have, and even if you remember in our Unity and Diversity series, we mentioned some of the Western scholars also who have written on sectarianism. They also came and proposed the same theory, that sectarianism and result into fighting, which results into fighting and physical violence, is promoted by political leaders. Okay, I'm repeating. This fighting and physical violence which is happening between Shias and Sunnis is something which is being ignited and fueled by the political leaders for their own gains. And that is why I say that if we don't wake up, they are using us and using us and using us the way they want. Okay? إِنَّ فِرْعَوْنَ عَلَى فِي الْأَرْضِ وَجَعَلَ أَهْلَهَا شِيَعًا. The same pharaonic idea, that to be able to stay on top, okay, you need to be able to divide and rule. Okay, and this is what I say, the British didn't learn it, the British didn't invent this rule, rather they learned it from the earlier oppressors. Yeah, so these are three theories I'm proposing. That one is, we are living in a dilemma and a paradoxical life, a bipolar life, and number two, the role of politicians in the physical violence. Now, the second point I will come and discuss as we go further in the subsequent discussions. Today I just want to discuss the first point. So, what I mean by today's Muslim is living a paradoxical life, is leading a bipolar life. What do I mean by that? See, go 2 centuries behind. This is where now you go behind, before colonialism. you had Khilafah, okay? So you have the Ottoman Khilafah, you have the Safavid Empire, and then you go earlier, you have the different Khilafahs, okay? The Abbasid Khilafah and all whatnot. At that time, countries were not divided based on the borders which are divided after colonialism. Okay? We live now in countries. We don't live under Khilafah. Okay? So under Khilafah, yes, the understanding might have been different. That, okay, we care for Muslims and we can't care for. And that is why you will see statements coming out from scholars. Yeah? Darul Kufr and Darul Harb and Darul Islam and all this. Now suddenly, these terminologies the scholars are navigating and saying, do we even make sense of it in today's world? Okay, and you will see scholars, especially in the Western world and in the English-speaking world, are struggling. Okay, what do you call Darul Islam and what do you call Darul Kufr and Darul Harb and all these terminologies which are being used? Okay, so now, after the Khilafah finishes, now we live in a country setup. So now we live as citizens of a country. Okay. So we cooperate and exist with each other based on citizenship, not based on our religiousness or based on our ethnicity. No, we are existing based on our citizenship to that country. And thus we have international laws now. Now, they're being followed or not, that's another issue. We're seeing how the Zionists are breaking all the international laws possible and nobody's speaking out. Yeah. Now, that's not our discussion. But the discussion I'm trying to say, theoretically, we now live in a country and we have international laws now. Okay. In this now, what type of relationship should a Shia and a Sunni have? Okay. And this is where now I'm trying to say that a Muslim of today, be it a Shia or a Sunni, is living a bipolar life. In theory, okay, he sees theological, jurisprudential statements from his scholars condemning the other side. But when it comes to practice now, he's saying that, can I live based on these rulings or not? And this is what I call a bipolar life, yeah? There's a huge difference between theory and practice, okay? So to give you an example, just go 2 centuries ago back, okay? And then go upwards, okay? Not this way, but upwards, okay? So 18th century and upwards. You will notice that the scholars used to give fatwa on offensive war, okay? What we call jihad ibtida'i. That you start an offensive war. You can go and start an offensive war and attack another country, and that is why this whole expansionism which was happening, and this is something where I believe research is required, but this expansionism which was happening based on Khilafah, which was okay at that time. Okay? But since now we have these countries and borders and citizenship, suddenly now we have to observe international laws. You can't attack another country just out of thin air, the way the American president is doing at the moment. Yeah? Not observing any international law altogether. When we have international laws now, can we now come up and reconcile with all these fatwas about jihadul ibtida'i? Okay, this offensive war. And that is why now there is a whole movement of revisiting these fatwas, revisiting the prophetic wars and battles also. Initially, the Muslims were very okay that, the Prophet had an offensive war somewhere. Suddenly, after the 19th century, the scholars are coming and revising this understanding. No, the prophetic wars were defensive and not offensive. Do you get me? Now, this is where a Muslim lives in a dilemma. Do you get me? Now, come back to our topic also. So, within the Muslim Shia-Sunni relationship also, a Muslim of today is living in this dilemma. On one side, he sees the statements of his scholars, which condemn the other side. Okay, now I'm not saying all scholars do that, but you see statements coming out. And on the other side, you have to live peacefully with your fellow citizen. What do you do then? Okay, and now this has divided Muslims into 3 groups. Okay, I'm just sharing my thoughts If you agree with me, okay. If you don't, it's also okay, okay? Uh, the first group is what I call the fundamentalist, or those hardcore followers of each sect, okay? Be it Shias and Sunnis. Now, if they're living in a country which is allowing all this sectarianism like India and Pakistan and all whatnot, we're not discussing that, okay? It's things have gone out of hand out there. Now, sometimes even the politicians love that, but we are not understanding what we are doing, yeah? Okay. I'm talking about countries where this sectarianism is not allowed, speaking out hatred against others is not allowed in public. So now a Muslim here, Shia and Sunni, is living two lives now. A private life and a public life. When he goes private, he hates the opposite person. He hates and curses and does takfir and does every type of thing he could do for the other, he will do. And that's why you notice even in social media also, okay? You have accounts which come out, which are unknown accounts starting to speak ill of each other. Because it's an unknown world. It's a private world where you start speaking and talking ill of each other. But on the opposite side, when they come in the public world, okay? When they come in the public sphere, they start speaking very different language of mahabba and compassion and love and all whatnot. Now, to give you an analogy, again, not something I am comparing the innocent Muslims with the Zionists and those who have this kind of mentality, okay? But look at what the Zionists are doing also, okay? So analysts, the political analysts will tell you that Zionists speak two languages, okay? In Hebrew, they speak one thing, and in English, they speak something else. Okay? So when they come and sit in the United Nations and they come to America and they speak English, they speak something else. They speak of human rights and following and observing international law and caring of their neighbors and all whatnot. When they go speak in Hebrew, okay, they spew all the hate possible. Okay, ethnic cleansing is allowed now. This is not anything hidden anymore now, yeah? Initially they would say, oh, there are fringe elements saying this now. Now it's become common now. Okay, these are being spoken very clearly. Okay, ethnic cleansing and genocide and settlers doing what they're doing with impunity. This is the dilemma which you live within, okay? And thus, if you speak to these kind of Zionists in public, in English, they will speak one language, and when you go and speak with them in Hebrew, they speak another language. Do you get me? Now, come back to our discussion. A Muslim of today is also living in this two kind of paradoxical life and bipolar life. In private life, he is speaking and spewing every hatred possible for the other side. Comes in the public, he speaks something else. Okay? This is one group. A second group is of those which we called those who have theological respect for each other. Okay, so they have decided that yes, we have differences. We are going to have differences forever. Okay, what we are going to do is keep these differences aside and we'll come and focus on the commonalities. Okay, and respectfully live with each other. Okay, this is the second group of Muslims. Shias and Sunnis. What I'm interested in is in the third group, and I finish my discussion here. A third group goes further than that now. They say that no, look at what the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam did with the personalities of the other side, okay, of the Sunni brothers. Yes, they had differences. Nobody denies, okay? Somebody who comes and says, no, everything was okay, this is trying to brush out history. No. Okay? Yes, there were differences, but despite their differences, they overcame their differences and lived with these differences also. So, to the level, okay, now these are issues which I've discussed in the Unity and Diversity series also. I'm just I'm saying about it, and this group also proposes this, that Imam gave bay'ah, or not, that's a discussion which they have. Imam prayed behind the caliphs or not, this is something all we have discussed in the previous series also. Okay. They come and propose this. All this Imam did shows you that Imam was respecting these people now. Okay. So it goes from tolerance and living together to a level of respecting each other now. Okay. I clearly remember there was a clip which was circulated. A scholar was asked, again, I don't want to mention where, a scholar was asked that, this was in a Sunni and Shia gathering. So he was asked that, do you speak ill? Do you do sab and insult the Sahaba? So the scholar was called in front. He was like, come, say that, do you insult the Sahaba and the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or not? So he comes back and says, no, we don't insult the Sahaba and the companions of the Prophet. Rather, our Imams also, the earlier Imams were Sahaba also. And then the interesting part is here. He goes on further mentioning the names of the three caliphs and he says, we also respect them. Okay? We also respect them also. So then this created a whole discussion within the social media now. That what does it mean by respecting? Yes, we don't say anything offensive about them is acceptable. But respecting them? Okay? Is respecting the caliphs also is there also? So, this has created a third group altogether now of saying that no, we have to respect the other side. Okay? Now, I finish with statements from Ayatollah Khamenei and Ayatollah Sistani on this issue. And this shows you the paradigm shift we are having within the Shia Sunni relationship. Okay? Notice, Ayatollah Khamenei, when he discusses this is there on his website. Okay? So I'm not, if you go search it on Khamenei.ir also. So the title is this, Ayatollah Khamenei's fatwa insulting the mother of faithful. Okay, you can search it out. Notice, I'm quoting him. He says, disrespecting the pure wives. Notice the word he's also using. Disrespecting the pure wives of the Prophet ﷺ should be avoided. Number one. The Prophet ﷺ's wives are respectable. Can you see now the paradigm is shifting from that first group of hardcore fanatics on each side that who just call for hardcore understanding towards each other to the second group of saying, okay, we will keep aside our differences. Now there's a third group emerging, and this is within the scholarship also. They're saying, no, we even respect them also. Okay? And this is not me saying it, okay? This is Ayatollah Khamenei also saying it. And we'll come to Ayatollah Sistani also. So he goes saying that the Prophet's wives are all respectable. Anyone who insults any of them has insulted the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look at a heavy statement. Okay? And then he says, I resolutely declare this offensive. The commander of the faithful, Imam Ali alayhi salam, treated her eminence Aisha in such a respectful manner. He gave respect to her, being the mother of the believers. And thus these scholars are also calling for respect also. Okay? And thus Ayatollah Khamenei goes further by saying that insulting figures and symbols celebrated by Sunni brethren, including the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Aisha, is prohibited. Okay? This is one example. Ayatollah Sistani also. So I'm quoting this statement of his from, there's a website called almujib.com. Apparently Ayatollah Sistani gave, because they are quoting Ayatollah Sistani's statement. I didn't get hold of this statement, but they're quoting verbatim. And thus I'm quoting from this, but it's a statement given by his office. Okay? So, again, look at the question being answered. ما هو الرأي السيد السيستاني حول السب واللعن رموز العامة. Okay? The question is very categorical. What's Ayatollah Sistani's opinion in regards to doing sab, okay, insulting, and doing la'an of the sanctities and personalities within the the Sunni world. Okay, the names are mentioned, all of them. So Agha's answer, notice they're quoting verbatim Agha's statement. He says, هذا مستنكر جدا. This is not good. Okay, this is not at all good. Then he goes on saying that وعلى خلاف ما أمر به أئمتنا الأطهار عليهم السلام من تعلف مع عامة المسلمين. This is opposite and contrary to the teachings of the Imams alayhim salam. They didn't teach us to insult them and curse them. They taught us to stay together with them peacefully and lovingly. Now, the important statement is here. وَإِحْتِرَامُ رُمُوزَ الْآخَرِ, and respecting the personalities of the other sects. So you don't only not insult, but you also respect also. This is one statement from Ayatollah Sistani. Another statement I'm quoting from the Taqreeb website. Taqreeb website is a known website for promoting unity. Apparently it's run from Iran. They are quoting the representative of Ayatollah Sistani. Okay, so this was a seating they had with the representative of Ayatollah Sistani, where they're quoting him now. Okay, so notice the representative is saying that Agha is always called for التعايش السلمي بين جميع المذاهب الإسلامية. There should be a peaceful coexistence between the different sects of Muslims. Number one. Number two, ويتشدد فيه مع طلبة الحوزة العلمية ووكلائه بتطبيقه في الحياة. This is important, beautiful. Okay, the representative is saying that Agha doesn't stop here. It's not theory only. No, he wants it to be practiced. So he becomes strict and he really enforces that the students in the seminary, and really it's required. Okay. Students in the seminary and his own representatives should implement this in their lives. Not that they just say that Sunnis are our brothers. No, we implement it. Show it by practically implementing it. Okay? Now, the statement which caught my eye was here. He then goes further by saying that يغضب غضبا شديدا أن كان هناك مس بمقدسات بعض الطوائف الإسلامية. Agha and Ayatollah Sistani would get angry if anybody starts violating and creating and speaks any kind of offensive understanding against the other sects of Islam. Anything you do offensive against the other sects of Islam, he says, Agha yaghdibu, not only yaghdibu, yaghdibu ghadaban shadida. Okay, he really becomes angry. Okay, he becomes extremely angry as to, no, this is not the way to live with our fellow Muslims. Okay, and the final statement. This was also important, a very beautiful statement. This was from his also website, which is run by his office, but it has his blessings also, the aqaid.net website. Okay, so he was asked about the same issues about the sab and la'an. Look at his answer. It's a beautiful answer. He says, لا بد من التفريق بين السب واللعن. Okay, we have to first make a difference and a distinction between sab and la'an. Sab and insulting anybody is not allowed. Be it a kafir also is not allowed. Okay, so be it a non-believer also, you are not allowed to insult them. Insulting is not part of Islam. Okay, so this is one distinction which needs to be done between sab and la'an. So sab is not allowed for anybody. Yes, he goes on saying that la'an is a dua. Yes, true. But then he goes on saying that فَلَيْسَ مِنَ الْوَاجِبِ عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ اللَّعْنِ. It's not wajib to do la'an. Who says it's wajib to do la'an and curse others? Notice the answer. The questioner is asking about the sanctities of the others and the personalities and the symbols of the Muslims, the other Muslim sects. The answer Agha is giving is this, that it's not wajib to curse. Okay? Rather, he says, فَمِنْ حَقِّهِ أَنْ لَا يَلْعَنْ أَحَدًا. It's a duty not to curse anybody. Where are we? Okay, the paradigm shift altogether. Look at what's happening in the masses and look at the marja'iyya, where is it going? And this is what I'm trying to say at times, that sometimes all groups are living in a paradoxical life. Okay, those who are calling for fanaticism and condemning others and insulting others, where is it from the teachings of the scholars and the maraja? And these are the same people who, when they come and speak about taqleed, they will come and tell you, see, he is insulting the maraja. Who is insulting the maraja more than yourselves? Okay? Practically, you are the same people who are not following this same maraja, okay? By ignoring their teachings. So, he says, فَمِنْ حَقِّهِ أَنْ لَا يَلْعَنَ أَحَدًا. He should not insult and should not curse anybody. It's his duty not to. وَلَا يُحَاسَبْ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. Allah will not question you. Beautiful statement. Allah will not question you on the day of judgment that why did you not curse somebody. So on the day of judgment, this is Agha's understanding, that on the day of judgment Allah will not ask you that why did you not curse somebody. No, it's not a wajib, and not even, it's not part of deen to go and curse people also. Do you get me? Okay, according to Agha's understanding. Yes. He goes and says, Naam, yajibu alayhi tabarru'u. So he differentiates between bara'a and la'an. This is Quranically also very different. It's been distinguished very clearly that you dissociate from the enemies of God. Yes. Okay? But you don't la'an. You don't curse them. Do you get me? Okay. Now, who are the enemies of God? That's a discussion which could be had. Okay. But Agha is making a distinction between bara'a and la'an. You do bara'a, you disassociate, but you don't, okay, you don't do la'an. Okay. So, in conclusion, the first point I tried to make was this, that we are living a paradoxical life. So I didn't bring, I was reading the kids, this MCE syllabus. For those of you kids who are in madrasa, the MCE syllabus also, it's the band 3 and 4, the last discussion. It's on tabarra and tawalla. We see this, okay? Go read it, okay? I forgot to bring the book with me, otherwise I would have showed you also that how we are living this paradoxical and bipolar life also. On one side, we're being told la'an is there. On the other side, we are told that Agha doesn't allow verbal abuse and verbal la'an and all that. So now, how do we live, okay? That's one point which I made. And the second point which I said we will be discussing in the next discussion is the role of politicians when it comes to the whole physical violence which is taking place between the Muslims, Shias and Sunnis. Let's pray to Allah. Allah, this is the month of Rajab. Okay, it's Rajab, one of the months which are haram months. Hopefully Allah allows us to come to this understanding that fighting with each other is of no use. Okay? Unity is better. Rather, it will get us closer to Allah, and something we have discussed in the past also, that Allah wishes unity from us. Okay? So, we pray to Allah to be able to give us those hearts to be able to unite with our fellow Muslim brothers and our fellow people within our own sects also, and to be able to spiritually elevate ourselves in this month of Rajab and Sha'ban, to be able to enter in the month of Ramadan. And again, lastly, we pray for the people who are oppressed throughout the world. Wallahi, Allah help them in this month. At least Allah help them to be able to elevate all the oppression going around, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.